organization. It's a movement. We're talking about unity. We're talking about unity. So we're aimed to taking down the system of race by educating, enlightening, informing, and positively debating with those who have counterviews.
I want to welcome you to this Thanksgiving edition of Talk About Unity. This is E.R.A.S.E, where we talk about those things that people try to walk about. All right. So I'm really excited about our show today. We got a great show, and it looks kind of lonely today because I have nobody here beside me. I got nobody coming in via Zoom right now, but that's going to change after we go to the break. We got Richard coming back in. Richard's going to be co-hosting with me today, and so we'll have a great show. We're really excited about today because today's show we've got my brother who's going to be part of the show, and people who know us, they know exactly when we get in the same room and we begin dialoguing, we open up the world of opportunity. All right, so it's going to be really good today, and so we're really excited about the show. But on this Thanksgiving edition, we do want to take some time out because I think everybody should be taking some time out, especially given the status of where we are in the United States and around the world this year, to really think about what we have to be grateful for. Everybody talks about getting out of 2020 and how 2020 has been so bad and all the negative things, but even in the midst of all the negativity and the downside of everything, we have much to be thankful for. And so we want to take some time this morning really just to talk about those things that we need to be thankful for. And so I don't have my co-host Richard in here to talk about those things because Richard being a pastor, because I know he's talking about that in many of his services. And I think churches around the country are talking about Thanksgiving, which is something that we should always do. We should always be grateful for the things that are happening. We know this as believers, but this time of year is really a good time for us to really focus on those things. And so I'm really just thankful for, and it's manifesting the fact that I've got my brother here that, you've got family. Everybody's got family that they can be thankful for. And I know most people out there are thinking, yeah, but you don't know my family. And so I can't be thankful for them. Even in the worst family situations, there's something to be thankful for because those people have either shown you things that you didn't want to be a part of or didn't want in your life, or they've been very reinforcing to some very good things in your life. And so either way, the circumstances of life make you thankful for the people that have been in your life. And that can be for good or for bad, because that's sometimes my oldest brother always talked about that he was so wayward in his youth because he was the oldest of the children in our family, and he was trying to show us what not to do. And so there's some gratitude we can have for seeing those things because it probably put us on a better path because of the things that we knew that we didn't want to do. And so you can always be thankful for family. And one of the sad things is at this time of year, you often hear stories on the news about things that are happening in families. And so we really need to pray against that and make sure that we're trying to do the best things, because most people are stressed out because of the year where they've been around too much family, because there were restrictions put in place by government, cities, and people like that. And so people have been kind of stressed out by that. So beyond all of that, as we say in the poem Invictus, beyond this place of wrath and tears, there's a lot that we can really be thankful for. All right. So take some time out and let's be thankful for family. And then let's be thankful for our health. I mean, everybody's health is not in the same place. Everybody's health is not in the position they might want it to be. But you have an opportunity where you are right now to realize that where you are in your health is good enough. All right. And you're trying to get better, because the ultimate thing is to try to maximize your health every day. And you do that with that next meal. You do that with that next step you're taking, exercise. You can do that. And so you should be thankful that you're in a position where you can at least think about. There are a lot of people right now who may be in a hospital bed and they don't have an opportunity. They wish they could get up and walk. They wish they could eat a normal meal. They wish they could breathe on their own. And you can do that. So you can be thankful for your health. You've got your family, you've got your health, and reality is, if you've got those things today, you can be thankful that you've got tomorrow. All right. So there's a bright sky ahead. There's a something that you can see ahead of you, an opportunity that's coming tomorrow that you might not have today, and you can look forward to that. Everybody's not looking forward. Some people spend a lot of the time just looking backwards, and when you look backwards, you see all the bad things you see yesterday. and you see what was happening yesterday, and sometimes that can constrict our view of what's going to happen tomorrow. So I want to tell you to look up to the hills. There's tomorrow. You can look, and there's opportunity ahead of you if you can decide that you want to look up rather than looking back. So look forward, and we got a lot of good things going. So we're really excited about all the things. It's Thanksgiving. It's Thanksgiving week. And we're going to talk about maybe a little bit of that about your health and fitness. Okay. I'm a fitness guy. I think a lot about fitness. And I tell you what, we're doing this keto thing. I might have some time to talk to my brother about that, because I call my brother the keto expert because of some of the things that he talked about when he was diagnosed with cancer. And he kind of went through this and started doing some things that he found out through his own research and his own effort. And I was like, man, I think you're the expert. I think you know a lot more than some of these cancer doctors, which is amazing, because people always get on me about thinking I know so much. And I go, because I listen to other people, and I see circumstances, and I factor all that in and then come up with my own solutions. So we might even talk about a little bit of that, but that's not going to be argumentative, because like I said, I call him the keto expert. I'll listen to him. But hey, there's a lot of good, healthy things that you can be out there. And, Thanksgiving's coming up, and people look at that as a time for splurging. And if you're already depressed and yet you're looking for comfort foods and you're doing all the wrong things, it can be a bad time. Your tomorrow might be a bad time. So think about that. Find a way to go out and get some exercise. I have a few friends, my wife and I, after Thanksgiving, that next Saturday, we always do a half marathon walk. I don't like running. Even though I was a Marine, I never liked running. But we'll do a half marathon walk. And what does that do? Benefit, number one, it gets you out in the air. You get you out, and you're not, and you got your few friends, you're social distancing, and so that's cool. But anyway, we're doing 13 miles, and we're walking it. And so that's good, because number one, is working off all them pounds we put on from the day or two before, from Thanksgiving Day, and all the pumpkin bread, pumpkin pie, turkey dressing, and all that stuff we're going to eat. And so, but it really gets your body feeling very good about what you're doing. And it gives you a victory. I didn't tell you all on this show, but my brother not only, like I said, was diagnosed with cancer a long time ago, but my wife in the last month was diagnosed with cancer. And I said, hey, you need some victories. When stuff like that is happening, you need some victories in your life, because you understand through some victories that you can be a victor. And so you got to do some things like that. Climb a mountain because you conquered that. Do something outside of your ordinary so that you can understand life is a life of victory. You can win some things. And so don't get so caught up in just, man, this is happening to me, and your head down. Man, you can win some things. All right. So we're going to really get to our show today. I'm excited about our show today, because we're going to talk about all the issues that you've been talking about, that the country's been talking about, that the world's been talking about. And we're going to talk about them from, I say, two diametrically opposed viewpoints, because my brother is always on the other end and I'm on the other side. And so that's what we do on Edge Radio. We taking people from both edges and bringing them back to the middle. And that's what we're going to talk about. So get ready. After we have a commercial break, I'm going to bring my brother up, Dwayne Charleston. You might know him as Judge Charleston. You've seen him, and you see him often on the news doing something, all right? And we always discuss those things. So it's going to be a great time today. We're going to talk politics. We're going to talk Black Lives Matter. We're going to talk everything, and we'll be ready to join you right after this break. Talk about unity.
The Natural Nation Network is really about taking control of your health physically, spiritually, emotionally, even intellectually, because there's so much out there in misinformation. There's a lot of people now that are suffering from all sorts of diseases that they really wouldn't have to suffer for if they had better information. And that's what we're here to do. Provide information that can save lives.
The mind and the body are totally connected.
Health can be really serious, and sometimes we just have to lighten it up a little bit while we're still providing substantive information.
And my sort of mantra on the salsa dance floor is kind of similar. I tell somebody, if you make a mistake twice, it becomes a move. Okay.
Tune into Natural Nation every Tuesday at 11 a.m. We work our whole lives to support our families. With one accident or illness, it can all be gone in an instant. Now there's a smart, affordable way to protect your family. Go to findhealthbenefits.com and discover low-cost life insurance for as little as $2 per month. Add to that a tax-deferred annuity that can help you protect your assets and grow your money for retirement. Learn more. Go to findhealthbenefits.com or call 877-235-6094. A critical illness can strike without warning and wipe out your life savings. In fact, it's the #1 reason for bankruptcy. Find Health Benefits offers an affordable solution. Get up to $50,000 if you get cancer, stroke, or a heart attack, giving you the peace of mind to focus on getting better while the plan helps you to pay your bills and medical expenses. Learn more. Go to findhealthbenefits.com or call 877 to cable TV than Medicare plans. Most say because it's just too confusing. Laws change every year. The wrong plan could cost you thousands and prevent you from seeing the doctors you want. Introducing findhealthbenefits.com. Save time, save money, see specialists without referrals. Go to findhealthbenefits.com or call 877-235-6094 for this informative brochure.
Society is on the edge. Let's bring them back. Edge Radio, because truth still matters.
Vince, and we got a couple of more pictures that I wanted to show you because we had that, you know, and we did, and the rest of our lives, we kind of did a lot of things together. My brother and I, the Extremes, we were on the sprint relay together, the two of us there together. We played football together, and so there's some pictures, some football pictures. We played football together. There's Judge Charleston right there, high school football player. Next picture would have me, their football player. So we did that. So I want to introduce you now to Judge Charleston, my brother Dwayne Charleston in the studio here today. We're ready to do this show. You've probably been anticipating what was going to happen here, and it's about to happen right now. It's going to go down. So welcome, Judge Charleston, my brother Dwayne Charleston. Welcome to the show.
I'm glad to finally be here, bro. Set you straight.
Set me straight. That's all what he's been trying to do that.
Giving all this bad information out on the airways for my Lord. All right, let's go.
So since 1963, his birth year, that's what he's been trying to do, you know. So it's been a long time. And so we're going to get an opportunity to really talk about some of those things today. Now, here's the deal. Because we're going to talk about Black Lives Matter, police brutality. We're going to talk about all these issues, the election, Trump, Biden. We're going to talk about your views because you got a lot of, I know, knowledge on what's happening with voting, voter suppression over the years. I'm not talking about people reacting to voter suppression that's happened recently. My brother has been into this stuff for years, and I know that because like I said, we've been discussing it for years, and he's into that. But one of the things that we used to do, because we on the opposite sides of the spectrum, and I told it's going to be a curveball here. I want to do this, and I'm going to it's a curveball for me as well because I don't know what you're going to say. But my question is this: we used to do this when we were in college, when we would argue about things. I would take your viewpoint, you would take mine, and you'd have to defend it. So I'm going to throw a curveball right now and say the first thing we're going to do before we set out on some basic things is you can ask me a question or I can ask you the first question. I want you to tell me something good about Donald Trump that he's done, because I know you're on the opposite side. That's my curveball question to you. You have to take my position as though you were a Trump supporter and say, this is what Donald Trump has done good.
I got one thing to say about Donald Trump that's good, and that is on yesterday he conceded. He conceded the election. You know, Donald Trump is indefensible. Other than yesterday,
now remember, you give your viewpoint. You've got to be.
Well, he conceded the election.
Okay, so
he conceded the election after 2.5 weeks.
So, what is your argument? Your argument on his behalf? You got to talk about what is so good about.
Well, he was smart enough that he saw the writing on the wall. He saw that he had lost some 40 different lawsuits, and he finally wisened up. You know, because he had really been.
But you understand, you're not arguing. You're supposed to be arguing as if you were from a Trump supporter side. You're arguing still from a liberal viewpoint.
No, I'm arguing from his side is that he finally did what was right.
But if you were arguing a viewpoint from his side, you wouldn't say.
I'm not defending. I can't take that curveball.
But that's strike. See, that's what we used to do.
Call it a strike. No, call it a strike.
It's a strike.
But we never had a Donald Trump in the room.
Oh,
and call it a strike. Call it a strike, because I'm not going to defend him. Under any circumstance, I'm not going to play your games. I'm not defending Donald Trump. He conceded yesterday. That's the only good thing I can say about him.
Okay.
He conceded.
All right. So in other words, this thing that we're talking about, because I'm talking about the ability to dialogue, would then show your objectivity and give you more credibility in your dialogue, because you're able to say objectively, this is what happened.
Listen, when you have issues that are facing our nation, that are facing our families, that are facing our criminal justice system, it's not about being able to make any agreements. I'm not in a position anymore to be trying to say I want to have dialogue. We need to tell the facts as they are. And all this stuff of trying to play middle of the road, not hurting anybody's feelings, and no. We're so far gone that we don't need to be trying to throw curveballs. We need to be speaking facts.
All right, so the facts. And so here are the facts. If you wanted to speak facts, then you would think on behalf of Donald Trump that you would talk facts and about what he has done. I mean, for the black community. You could talk about that if those were just facts. Are you saying he's done nothing for the black community?
When you say black community, are you talking about the African diaspora, or are you talking about African Americans?
Well, I'm talking about
because when you say black community, I'm thinking the African.
First
diaspora.
of all, this is E.R.A.S.E.
And he called them the shithole countries, so we can start right there.
Well, okay, so all right, so you're just coming from a very leftist viewpoint. I'm coming from an objective viewpoint.
Are you talking about African American community? Or are you talking about the African diaspora? That's simple.
First of all, I'm talking about what we deem to be the quote unquote black community. Let's not get caught up in the semantics. You know what the black community is.
No, I don't.
If someone gives to HBCUs, would you call that the black community? If they gave some money to an HBCU, would you call that supporting the black community?
Yeah,
I
can see that.
So you would say that yes. So that was something Donald Trump did that
every president gives to the black community.
Did Trump give more than Barack Obama or less?
I don't know the facts on that.
Okay, all right. So then you would see that.
I doubt that $500 billion is true.
So if he did,
or did he promise $500
billion?
Or did he give?
So you don't know.
Well, no,
so you don't know
that the $500 billion is true. I bet you can't say that factually.
No, well, like I said,
so you don't know.
No, all I know is the bill that he passed that gave a lot of money to HBCUs.
Bills don't mean nothing. Doc, we talking about where the rubber hits the road. Okay, people can pass a bill all the time, but if he don't sign something in the law, or if he don't write the check and get the money to the man, you coming up with all this theory stuff.
You understand we have a government. You understand that laws are made by bills being passed. And so bills is the way the country is run. So what do you mean they don't mean anything?
A bill can pass in Congress and not pass in the Senate. And then it can pass in the Senate and not be signed into law.
Right.
So bills don't really mean that much until
they become law.
Right.
So we understand that. Everybody, we don't understand the civics of it. So when those things have happened and those things are passed and they become law and it's implemented, then you would say that would be good or that would be bad. So we understand that. So we got different views on that.
So we cannot agree.
Let's go with your curveball question, because I'm going to show you how to do this thing so that you can be objective and lend yourself credibility. So give me your curveball question. Give me your curveball.
The curveball.
Yeah, I want you to. Yeah, give me your curveball. Like I told you to defend Trump. I told you to defend Trump.
Defend Kamala Harris.
Oh, well, I think Kamala Harris would be she as the vice presidential candidate and vice president elect. I think she brings definitely a new mindset to the office, because first of all, being a woman brings a different mindset automatically. and then her background being very, no pun intended, but being very colored, very varied, then I think that's the biggest benefit that she has to the vice president. I think we'll get thought that we haven't had there before, which is always beneficial, especially when you talk about diversity, because we need diversity of thought. And I think the more thought that you bring, then the better. And so I would say that's what she brings. And so Kamala Harris, she's got extensive experience in law enforcement. That's another big plus that she has, which we've got law enforcement issues in the country. So that would be the positive. And so that would be the thing I would say for Kamala Harris. See how easy that is? If you really are going to be objective, you can find good things about people to say, even when you know that they've got a lot of bad. And so that's what objectivity is about.
Even when they've done a lot of bad, who does that refer to?
I'm referring to Trump. I'm referring to Trump because just because Trump has done some bad, and so I can objectively sit here and say he's done some bad, but it's terrible for us to believe that everything he's done is bad and that there's no good, and I can't find any good in people. And that's why on Talk About Unity, we try to get people to come in here and say, understanding we're all human and we've got downsides. What is the upside? Where can we come to agreement? Because I heard what you were saying earlier, talking about we need to quit talking or trying to be nice and say all the right things. We need unity, and that comes from us being able to dialogue first and then go forward, even when we disagree.
First of all, you haven't said anything that Trump has done good except for the fact that he or his campaign or his minions have put out that he was given $500 billion to
would you like me to?
Oh, it doesn't matter to me because there's going to be some flaws in everything you say.
But that's the point.
Because that's what his whole administration was built on, was flaws. You put a few sound bites out, spend 5 minutes on something, and you try to convince people who are willing. Dude, he has a. You know what Kamala Harris brings that you didn't mention? You
just asked me to bring. You didn't tell me to give me a laundry list. You asked me to bring some things. So that's from my viewpoint.
Your thing was she comes from a law enforcement background. That's what she brings to the table. No. We're talking about defund the police.
That's one of the things.
And that's an asset because she comes from a law enforcement background. But
why is that not an asset?
You don't have to have a law enforcement background to be able to enforce the law, to promote justice and things like that. That's just something that she comes from. That's something. But
so do you think that that's not beneficial, that she has that experience?
Everybody can bring that to the table. It doesn't be just because you came from that background.
No, they can't.
No, and hey,
Mike Pence was in law enforcement.
10 minutes later, you'll be talking about Kamala Harris, and you'll be talking about Hillary Clinton, you'll be talking about you'll be talking about Joe Biden and them locking and incarcerating so many hundreds of thousands of African Americans.
Really, I don't do that thing. I don't do that. I'm really. I'm going to talk about unity. You can bring it. You can bring it up, but see, that's the way that you argue, and this is what I'm saying. Here's our difference. I argue from objectivity because I stand in the middle. You argue from passion for the left. You argue for passion from the left. So that's why we differ. Because I just argue
from the left. You mentioned Kamala Harris and defending Kamala Harris because she comes from a law enforcement background. Okay, hold up. Because she comes from a law enforcement background, I might submit to you that might be the thing that we don't really much care about. That's why you have this big move that deals with defunding the police. She brings decency. She brings professionalism. She brings objectivity.
Oh, that sounds like something I said. I said that.
Right. Okay. But you put some superficial deal. She comes from a law enforcement background. That was nothing but wagging the dog. That was because she comes from a law enforcement background. What is that supposed to mean? That she can be tougher on crime?
No, it means it gives credibility to her experience in the position, which is a very valuable thing when you're making judgments as the vice president on things that are happening in our country. Now, you
got women that work in the home. How could you take something that objective? You have women that work in the home as housewives that have more credibility and credentials because of making decisions between two fighting siblings, because of making decisions about managing a household budget and everything. That's so superficial because she comes from
superficial. That is not superficial. And if you
what is she? Okay.
That is not superficial. How can you say that's superficial? She's got a background
because that was one of your little curb programs to try to make it seem like you're objective.
That is objectivity. You don't understand objectivity because you're so far on the left. You can't understand objectivity.
What you want to talk about? How could that not be objective? All
right. Well, all right. So let's go forward then. First of all, let's talk about this thing because I think if we don't set the platform for how we're going to dialogue here, we're going to continue to do this where we don't make any progress. What we got to do is understand that when I make a point, then the point is to be evaluated for what it is, not for what you think it is. So I'm making my points, and now I threw the curveball thing, but now you're going to make your points, I'm going to make mine, and we're going to talk about and we're going to see where they meet in the middle, if there is a middle. All right, because I think I'm objective. I don't think you are. Okay, so we'll start there. All right, so let's talk about some of the things that have been happening in our country. Let's just talk about the concept of, I guess, systemic racism. What do you think about the concept of systemic racism and its viability as a concept? What does that mean to you? And this is give your viewpoint. This is your.
Well,
what do you think about that as a?
Well, I think systemic racism in the context of America, it is so firmly ingrained. It is essentially the red, white, and blue. It's essentially the fabric of America. Systemic racism shows that it was because of racism, because of the divisions and things like that, is what built America. And so you can't even talk about racism without people think you're being un-American. If I say that racism is as American as apple pie, then they think that I'm being un-American. But the reality of it is that systemic racism is what made America great. Quote unquote great. What made it great, what made us an industrial power, what made us all kinds of powers is because of systemic racism. And that is the subjugation of one race to the other. And that's basic and fundamental in American society.
Okay. All right. So,
and without it, America wouldn't be where she is.
Okay.
Economically.
All right. So, okay, I hear your viewpoint. All right. So here's my viewpoint on when people say systemic racism, because I understand, and listen to what people are saying when they say systemic racism, then I can agree with their viewpoint on what they're saying. The things that you just said, I understand what you're saying. You're saying that we had a fabric. This was
we have a fabric.
Okay, you're saying
I had a fabric.
Right, okay,
see how that one little word can make a huge difference?
All right, well, we'll
okay.
talk about that
ahead.
Because we disagree on that. We disagree on that because of my viewpoint. And so I'm saying I acknowledge what you're saying, but I'm saying this is my view on it. So when you say systemic racism and you believe that it's woven into the fabric of our country and it pervades everything that still exists even today, I would say this. I would say that idea of people being partial to others because of their skin color is something that is another factor amongst many other things in our country. And so while it was in our country, there was also some very good things in the fabric of our country. And so it alone is not the bedrock of everything, but is another thing that was in our country. And would our country,
it's the bedrock.
And would our country,
it's the bedrock.
So we disagree on that.
Okay.
All right. So we disagree on that because I believe that you had a lot of good things, because I always ask people, how did we get to 1865 and emancipation if it was so pervasive in our system? So that meant we had something that would not even, if it was so that pervasive, you never would get to abolition of this thing. You never would get to abolishing this concept if it is that pervasive.
Well,
so how then, I'm asking you, so I'm saying, because if it is the fabric and we would not go anywhere without that thing, then how did we get the change? And so I think you have to evaluate that. And so here's your opportunity to
well, I
respond to
think
that.
it was because you had people who were not willing to accept the status quo. You had people like Nat Turner, Frederick Douglass. You had people like Abe Lincoln and John Brown. You had people who were saying, you know what? If we have to ratchet this thing up to the point that it causes a civil war where we lose millions of lives, you see what I'm saying? There were people on one side, call it left, call it right. There were people that said, you know what? There will be no compromise to this issue about slavery. We will kill, we will do whatever is necessary, because there will be no compromise to continuing this slave institution. And slowly but surely, you started having people that started saying, you know what? I'm willing to die for this. I'm willing to die for this. But there was still a whole lot of white Americans and black Americans, I submit to you, that were still willing to say, you know what? We want to preserve this institution. So yes, there was progress, but it wasn't progress because of some revelation of white American Christians or people who say, you know, we're such a good country. It was because of people on the extreme edge that said, I will kill, we will have a slave revolt, rebellion, we will go against the laws of the nation. And that's what led to it. So you can call that good if you want, but for the millions of people who laid 6 feet under, that wasn't such a good thing. It wasn't such a good thing.
All right, and I think you make the point. And here's the thing where I think it's important for us to understand the left view and the right view and how they meet in the middle, because the things that you're saying are very true. Because I tell people, when you talk about systemic racism, you're talking about this culture that pervaded the country. And you brought up the point when you articulated it, when you said there were people who came along, because having a leadership background and having advanced degrees in leadership, I always tell people, I said, there is no system that can't be fixed by a great leader. And that's what we had. We had people, and you talked about some of the rebels, but
Nat
you also
Turner.
you talked about rebels, Nat Turner, but you also talked about some governmental people. You talked about Abraham Lincoln. You had people in the system, outside of the system, all who came in.
And as great as Abe Lincoln
hold
was.
on, wait, stop.
Okay.
I'm giving my rebuttal, all right? So my point is this. So you brought in all these things, and I said all of these things are indeed factors. You brought in people, you brought in the system, and all those things. So I say, when you say systemic racism, I say it was one of the bad things happening in our country, and you needed people to come in and fix that bad system. And so that's what made that, that's why I say, I understand what you're saying when you say systemic racism, but I believe it's a function of leadership. You give me the right people, they'll fix a bad system.
Like Nat Turner.
Well, right, he identified, and some of those people have different roles. And so Nat Turner and his type, they brought up things that brought out
It was Nat Turner that brought people like Abe Lincoln to the table. Abe Lincoln never intended to free the slaves.
But you understand
know that from my neighbor George Wolfe.
But you understand.
So you call it good leadership if you want. I call it good followership.
Lyndon Baines Johnson wasn't like exactly your guy who would be advocating for civil rights. But he got his conscience pricked by the works of people, and therefore was able to change and modify his views and make some changes. So what I'm saying is, it takes people,
right. And that's what we do on the left, and that's what we're doing on the left.
Well, understand. I appreciate the left because I appreciate the right, because I think that's what democracy, that's what our republic is about. It's about having people on the edges, Edge Radio, having people on the edges and bringing them together for solutions that are in the middle. That's why I call myself the man in the middle.
There is no middle solution to racism. Well, there is no middle solution.
But you're trying to
make this systemic racism, the still prevalence of racism in American society. You're trying to make it digestible. Like we're in a gradual position. And we're getting better. We're getting better.
No, you're missing my point. You're missing the point, and you're not listening. You're not listening to what I'm saying, because nobody is taking one item or something that you call racism. I'm saying there's partiality for a lot of things. You understand this? I was short. And people looked at me for football and said he doesn't have the ability to do this. There's partiality in a lot of things. So I'm saying you need to be able to understand people's viewpoints. All right?
America will start moving forward when people start realizing, those of us who are on the left who are against systemic racism, injustice in the criminal justice system that more often than not takes advantage or exploits African Americans and people of color. When people finally realize that those progressives we're not compromising. I'm not compromising. I'm not saying give it 10 more years, give it 20 more years. Our kids are going to be better. No, there's certain things we're not compromising on. And this whole issue of racism, the people on the conservatives, evangelicals, people on the right, they need to understand, let it go. Let it go. You need to stop saying that there is a common middle ground that we can all sing, kumbaya to. It's not a middle ground that we can compromise with. No compromise.
Okay, and we're gonna continue there with this good discussion as soon as we come back from the break, and we'll start right there with whether or not we need to compromise on these things and what that means. All right, so we'll do that right after the break here on Talk About Unity. We'll be right back. Don't push me because I'm close to the edge.
I'm trying not to lose my head.
Hey, this is the Talk About Unity show where I bring the talk.
And I bring the unity.
And together we talk about unity. Unity is what matters.
Come on.
And right now in our country, that's what we've got to do. So we do that here at Talk About Unity on the Edge Radio Network. Be with us every week.
It's going to be awesome. It always is. And I tell you what, the more we seek first to understand, then be understood, we make progress.
And we like to do that. And that's why everybody's on the brink. We love what we do at Edge Radio because everybody's on the edge. We bring them back from the edge and we bring the unity. So we're just glad to Edge Radio Network every Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. Talk About Unity, because here at Edge Radio Network, truth still matters. All right, we're back on Talk About Unity. I got my brother here, and if you were here for the first part, then you heard, and we're just gonna dive right back into it. Hey, but I want to start off with this thing about I want to go back to our childhood and stuff, and ask you this question about how we grew up, because we grew up, mom and dad, six siblings in our family there, and what do you think? Talk about us from the beginning and how we evolved to some of these things. Because talk about some of the stuff that you and I did together and things like that. Where we start from.
For those that don't know, me and Carlin, we've been going at it for a long time. But he changed, because there was a time when we were in college. If we have any frat brothers look at us, you remember the time when we had the two frat brothers that were verbally assaulted and then threatened with nunchucks, and they came across the campus, and we ended up going to a fraternity meeting. And we were in this fraternity meeting, me and Carlin, and probably about 15, 20 other brothers. Mm-hmm. And we brought this up on the agenda where the brothers wanted to take a vote on whether or not we should go and confront.
And they did. They voted. They voted against
it. And they voted on it, and we voted. I think it was probably, 17-2?
Yeah.
We lost. And right there in that frat meeting, Carlin and I got up in the middle of the frat meeting. We walked over to this frat house, which could have had 100 white guys that were thinking the same mentality, and we went to the door of that fraternity and we directly confronted them. That was a time when we broke from the norms. We broke from the policies and procedures of our own fraternity. He was radical then. He went there. Today, I submit that it had been a 19-1 vote because he'd have gone on the other side. Let's just talk about it. We were ready to go over there and get beat. We were ready to go over there, and we couldn't have beat 18, 19 of them, but we were going to get about 4 of them. But we were ready to lose. I think what we have the problem right now is we have so many people that don't want to lose. They don't want to lose. And I say, no, put it all on the table. Go get arrested. Go get killed. And I will say this about my brother Carlin. If ever there was a time that we had to go to Africa and fight against Boko Haram, there would be nobody on this planet that I would want to be in that foxhole with other than Carlin. If we had to go to the Middle East and fight ISIS, there's nobody I'd rather go in than my brother Carlin. Nobody else. But that's pretty much it. Because the brother is a warrior and he is a fighter, but he has lost his way when it comes to domestic policies and this issue about racism and the issue about I ain't gonna say he supports Donald Trump, but I will say he supports a lot of his stupidity. And but he has lost his way. You've lost your way. And when you want to compromise, that's what these brothers want. They want to, let's vote on and let's go to the dean of the students and let's talk about it and let's have dialogue. No more dialogue. When you start dealing with racism, no more dialogue. It's either speak what is true.
Okay, all right, your time's up. All right. So, and here's where you get some leftist who doesn't understand objectivity and where work happens. And so he didn't understand it from when we were in college. Guess what? So we were in that meeting, and when the policies of the fraternity were not productive for what we wanted to happen, what did we do? We didn't go there as a rebel, like you said. We went there, and what did we do with those guys? We talked.
We walked out. We seceded from the union.
No. What did we do? Well, I'm talking about, what were our actions? Our actions were to dialogue with the guys. And see, now today you call me something soft because I'm dialoguing and I'm trying to understand.
No.
We went to dialogue.
No.
We went to dialogue.
We chose not to dialogue with the guys who were making the decisions on the policies. We went like Dr. King.
Those were actions of our own. What did we say? When we went, we said we are not representing.
We went fully expecting that they were going to take action against us.
See, this is what leftists do. They replay the thing. They revise history. He's revising history.
I was hoping he was going to bring those nunchucks out and he was going to swing on you or swing on me. We were going to fight.
No.
Brother, you had me fooled.
No.
For 35 years, I thought you were going over there to fight with me.
We weren't going over there to fight.
We were going to talk.
What did we do when we got there? Tell me do you remember what we did when we got there?
The guy wasn't there, and we talked to the president of the organization.
So we dialogued with them, and we were telling them what you did was unsatisfactory.
And he got kicked out of the Interfraternities Council, and I think he got suspended from school or certainly the fraternity. We took some substantial action.
All right, so here's what leftists do. And so he's saying we weren't radical enough. What we did, though, brought about some solution. It brought about solution because we went, and he's saying now that I was soft because I was going there to talk when he thought I was going there to swing. And so this is it. So history, and this is what I'm saying.
You know what?
History.
You know what?
What I'm saying is,
leftist.
No, but D, let me make this point. The deal is, you've got to be able to understand that everybody that has your the same idea. And we talk about racism. There's nobody in this country who says, yeah, we need more of that. We need more people to be partial towards people because of their skin color. Nobody says that. What you fail to do, and what the left fails to do, or what they really do, is make everybody out to be one of those people when everybody's not that way. There are good-hearted people of every skin color who want to work with other people. But what leftists do is say, no, we're the only ones who are right, just like you're doing now. No, I was right and Carlin is wrong. Carlin's lost his way because Carlin has a different view than Dwayne does right now. But Carlin is going about trying to bring change where he can bring change, trying to bring people to the table of dialogue so that we can talk and go forward with solutions together. But for you, that's not enough because I'm not totally in agreement with your methods.
See, you drank the Kool-Aid with respect to the methodologies of people like Dr. King. You think Dr. King was walking into those streets going for the simple cause of dialogue. That's what you think. That's the American Kool-Aid. Dr. King went into the streets because he knew that when you have these races, when you present yourself in front of them, they're apt to do something really foolish, like sick dogs on children or put water hose on elderly men. He went with the full idea that we're gonna take the pain.
Sure,
we're gonna take the pain.
Everybody agrees with that.
He didn't go just to go dialogue.
Right.
I don't think that you went.
No,
for any purpose other than just a dialogue now.
Well, no, look, but
I went thinking they were going to do something.
But D, you understand, this is not the 50s and 60s. And
why
have
you don't remember Breonna Taylor?
D, seriously, D, think about our mom. Listen, Dwayne, listen. See, and this is not leftists cannot move forward. Leftists cannot move forward. He's stuck. He's stuck in history. D, are the
that
views
ain't history? Sandra Bland died 5 years ago.
So you got to drink at a separate water fountain too? Oh, you can't get into a school you want to get into? Oh, you can't do.
Ask the people in Flint, Michigan, do they drink from separate water?
Oh, come on. Yeah. Oh, and that's pervasive. And that's in Texas. That's in Waller County. That's everywhere.
So the
it's not. You're making up. You're lying to the people. You're lying.
The may not be labeled.
You're lying.
But the environmental contamination of our neighborhoods is just as dangerous.
So what you do, and this is what leftists do, and this is why leftists are, you got to be objective because they'll take one episode of something happening in the country. Oh, that's pervasive around the country. Yeah, you act like Flint, Michigan has happened everywhere in the country.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding you.
It does. Do you remember the lead smelter in West Dallas? You probably forgot about that. That was one of the reasons I became who I was because they poisoned all of those kids in West Dallas. That was back in the late 70s.
So D, here's the point you're making.
D, contamination,
D, all right, listen, D, what kind of person is there an American out there who would say there's been no change in the last 50 years, which is what you seem to be articulating, that there's been no progress, that things are the same as the 50s and 60s?
There's exceptions to every rule. You have more black quarterbacks in the NFL.
That's not what we're talking about.
So what are you talking about? You just said no change.
I'm talking about societal change for the good of America. Are you saying we have not moved forward? There's been no progress. There is less of this thing that you call racism. Are you saying there's more of it? It's just as bad now. It's the same as in the 1800s. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not going to try to put it on the scale of racism. To me, it should not be on a scale. It's not on a scale. It's either you're racist or you're not. You're trying to put racism on a scale.
I'm not putting racism.
I'm not going to go there.
So if there's one person in the country, you're thinking about there's some type of utopia. So you'll always characterize America. If there was one person who was racist, then the country is all racist.
One person who's racist, and you still have systemic racism in governments and laws that protect them. Then absolutely.
So, but you understand that your premise is your conclusion. And so what I'm saying, the fallacy of what you're arguing is that if you have this thing, racism, which really need to be defined, then the conclusion is you have racism. Okay, that's a fallacy. That's a bad argument.
You've got
to prove a premise and then come up with a conclusion. You can't make the premise the conclusion. That's ridiculous.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Because you're saying because there's racism, then we're all racist.
It's a racist country.
But there's no definition to that. You got to define that. And that's why I say there has to be discussion so that I understand what you're talking about. You understand what I'm talking about. Then we can go forward. But for you to just say America is racist really gives no one a proper context of what you're talking about.
Breonna Taylor, the guy fires into the wall. He fires into the wall. And then we find out once we start seeing some of the information coming out of the grand jury that it was basically just a cover up. That this DA protected these law enforcement officers and then he undercharged them, then he didn't charge
All right, so
them.
so that's a case. So what about Tawana Brawley? I mean, so what about Tawana Brawley? You remember Tawana Brawley?
With
Al Sharpton?
Al Sharpton,
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, don't grab a singular case and make it an anecdote.
What about Tawana Brawley?
It was a made up lie, and so what I'm saying is you have bad people doing bad
Absolutely.
things. So what my
Absolutely.
point is, so you don't take
maybe what she did was racist
So
too. I'm not saying that black people can't be racist. I'm not one of those.
Okay, good, very good. But what I'm saying is, let's not take a singular episode or even.
Carlin, I brought up all of these names, and when I bring up one name, you say
but
singular episode. So you're gonna lump all these wrongful police killings into one song?
If you're willing,
call it a single episode.
What I'm saying is, if you're willing to be objective, then when you look at a George Floyd, then you understand there was a George Floyd, but you also understand that there have been quote unquote white people who were killed the same way George Floyd was. And why did we not get that? Why did that not make the news? So
because the killings are disproportionate. You're talking about mathematical disproportion.
But you don't have facts to substantiate that.
What do you mean?
D, have you been to?
I don't have my phone on right now.
But
disproportionate.
This is what I want you to do. We'll bring you back. D, listen. Our show is run. D, here you go. Listen to this. Our show is going to run. We'll run another show. And we'll bring you back. There's a website called killbypolice.net.
And who runs it?
D,
Okay, Blue Lives Matter people.
Okay, so check it. So that's what you're going to say. That's what you're going to say.
I'm pretty sure.
But
I'll bet if I
you're
go
not
look on
willing
it
to
right
check it
now-
out. So you'll go with your narrative so that you don't have to find objectivity. And that's what the leftists do.
So what do they say, Carlin? What do they say?
It identifies every murder, every death that's happened by police, and it goes back 20 years.
Yeah.
It goes back 20 years.
Yeah.
You can look at related news stories. You can find out exactly what happened.
And does it break down into who's armed and who's unarmed?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Okay.
It has all those things. It has which
And so
ones.
what do they
it has
conclude?
all of them.
What do they conclude?
Here's the deal. This is what I'm challenging you to do.
I think you finna put forward a good argument for defunding the police. Because if it's happening to white people more than it's happening to black people, you supporting the argument for defunding the police.
First of all,
but you don't want to do that.
Well,
then you gonna back
defunding.
up.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this, and that would be something we would discuss if you were able to be objective and have a discussion. We could have a discussion about what it means to defund the police. So we'll cover that when we come back. But defunding the police, first of all, is idiotic to say let's take all the money away from police departments.
That's not what defunding the police says.
Well,
that's
all right, stop.
Right,
D, we don't have time. All right, D. All right, D. So we like I said. So that's why
you take these little small
D,
sound
that's why I'm
bites
saying.
and write a whole book on it. That's not what it says.
If you're willing to have a dialogue, then we can define the terms, because that's what we would have to do.
You know what's interesting? Hey,
we would define the terms.
Right quick. Let me say something. You know, during this campaign, everybody
This is what you get.
Everybody was talking about Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton and them incarcerating so many African Americans, and they never. And Trump was leading the charge about them incarcerating 500,000 or 300,000, whatever it was, African American. Trump pardoned 22 people in 4 years. 22 African Americans in 4 years. Why didn't he go and try to pardon all those people that Joe Biden was doing? So check this out. So y'all talk about Joe Biden and
I haven't said a word about Joe Biden, so that's something he's bringing up.
I'm talking about the right. Just like you lump me in with the leftists, like the leftists, I'm lumping you in with the right. So when you start
I'm in the middle. He doesn't understand. I'm in the middle.
Y'all criticize Clinton.
The left calls anybody in the middle on the right.
You criticize the crime bill, but then when we start saying stop funding the police in a manner and a way that you're doing, all of a sudden y'all don't want to do that. Then you say, well, let's just say it means eviscerate.
I would say, but my point is,
they need to be funded differently.
So, all right, now see that's different.
And that's what defund the police is saying.
Well, everybody's got a different view, though. Some of the people,
ain't nobody talking about eliminating police entirely.
You got to be kidding me.
Talking about defunding police, but the right.
They voted
in the
that
black neighborhoods. You don't hear people talking about defunding the police.
Minneapolis voted for that. Their city council voted to defund the police, and exactly that, take their money away. And so you're saying that, but there are other people who have a different view. So that's why I say you have to have a dialogue so that you understand what people are saying, so that you don't mischaracterize people.
So Minneapolis no longer has a police department.
What? No, I'm saying with the city council.
You just said they did. You said they defunded.
I told you what the city.
So they all volunteers now. They all volunteers.
See, you can't have a discussion.
We're going back to this bill issue. You can vote for all you want.
Stop, Dwayne. All right, Dwayne, stop. All right, Dwayne.
Minnesota defunded
Dwayne. It's a conversation.
Minnesota
Dwayne, stop, Dwayne. It's a conversation.
I want you to elaborate on that. Minnesota defunded the
No,
police.
I didn't. I said their city council voted such. Right. I said the city council voted.
And did that eliminate the police department?
I didn't follow it after that. But what I'm saying is,
why do you want to bring it up on your radio
because
show?
People have different views than you do of the term, which is why I said to you, if I'm going to sit around and have a conversation with Dwayne Charleston, I'm going to ask Dwayne Charleston, what do you mean when you say this? Now, you hate that I would ask you that because then it requires you to explain. Then we could have a civil conversation. But you really like, and I kind of went into your realm today and I said, well, let's just be combative. Because this is what we used to do when we were young. We'd just be combative. But in reality, when we bring Dwayne back, we're going to have a civil conversation because we're going to point by point. Because Dwayne, see, and that's the thing. So he doesn't want to, and so that's one of his tactics. And so that's a tactic which won't work. Because we're going to just have a civil conversation because we're going to ask you to explain what that means. And so I'm glad to have him. Our time's up for the show today, and we're going to have a lot of dialogue about this in the meantime, and we're going to bring him back so we can cover some more of these things. Thank you for being here, and we'll continue this conversation and this discussion, as we call it, next time on Talk About Unity. We'll see you then. All right.